Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Planning Committee meeting of the Parish Council on 17th of April 2024. And first item on the agenda is apologies, and none are required as every member is present. Good evening. Number 2, declarations of interest. Arising from this agenda, members and officers are invited to declare any relevant interests. Notwithstanding this item, members may subsequently declare an interest at any point during the meeting. Are there any declarations of interest? Okay, thank you. Number 3, meeting of the minutes of the previous meeting to receive and confirm the accuracy of the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 27th of March 2024. Anybody have any comments on those? Show of hands then for those who think I should sign them as approved. Thank you very much. That's unanimous, and I realise I haven't got a pen with me. Thank you, Joe. I just said the date, didn't I? 17th. Thank you, Joe. Okay, item 4 is the Planning Committee project report. Receive and review the project report from the committee clerk. We've all had that circulated. And you got any comments on the planning report? Project report, rather? Yes, Councillor Kane.
Yes, on the item about surface water issues on Tanners Lane, following the heavy rainstorm we had recently, the path going into the land is now damaged. It's down to the scalpings have been removed. It's down to the hard continuity. So there's an additional issue there, perhaps.
Okay, thank you for that. I must admit I haven't been up there for a few weeks. Councillor Smith.
The surface has actually been washed into the road and washed away.
Yes.
I have video footage should it be required, Joe.
Oh, right, thank you. It's, I mean, when we visited with the officer from Winchester a while back, there was a river flowing down the path, so I'm not that surprised. It's been washed out. But we will note that. It comes up slightly later in the agenda as well. Anything else on the project report? No, thank you. Okay, thank you, Joe. Item 5 on the agenda, public participation. The meeting will recess for not more than 15 minutes to allow any members of the public to address the meeting. We have one member of the public here. Does he wish to address the meeting?
No, thank you.
Okay, so we will. I won't even open the public session then because the one member of the public does not wish to address it. Okay, item 6 is to consider and make comments on planning applications received. We have 3, 2 of which are almost repeats of ones from 3 years ago. In this case, they are number 1 is 2400773 PNR COU, prior notification. I can't remember what the R stands for.
Renewal for change of use.
Renewal change of use. Thank you, Councillor Langford-Smith. This was for it says it's Brymore and Ocean House, Parklands Business Park, to change of use existing commercial office floor space to 16 residential flats. That one is actually just for Brymore House because 2400774 PNR COU, is by the same applicant to a change of use of the existing commercial office floor space at Ocean House, Parklands Business Park, for 8 residential flats. These came up 3 years ago. We objected at the time. They were granted permission. The only difference this time is that they have reduced the number of flats in Brymore House by 2, and which means that obviously they expanded some of the flats slightly. As far as I can see, Ocean House is identical to what it was before. So I think all we can really do, unless anybody's got any other comments to make, is note to those. They don't expect us to comment on them, though they've sent us. They sent us them as if we should comment on them. I think, to be honest, to discuss them and make any comment would be superfluous. Unnecessary use of our time, to be honest, because we know that they're just effectively a repeat of what was given last time, and I suspect that it's been allowed to lapse the 3-year permission because they didn't want to start. Yes, Councillor Carson.
Is this a point to discuss or make?
No, you could ask.
My only comment would be that in 3 years since it was given permission, that Winchester has declared its climate emergency and so on, and there's nothing that I could find relating to use of renewables for heating and so on.
Okay, yeah, Councillor Smith.
There's no policies in Winchester for that, so although they've declared a climate emergency, they've not changed planning legislation at this point, so they are not able to impose any conditions or ask for any renewables on any applications, and also they're not inviting comment from us on these 2 applications.
Yeah.
So
They have sent us these 2 applications
for information.
and even given us a deadline for responses, but don't expect any responses. So we'll note to those. The third one in front of us is 2400768/TCP, which is by Icon Tower Infrastructure Limited for land at Soak Pond, Soak Road, a tower and equipment cabinets for a 5G telephone mast. They provided us with lots of bits of propaganda. And I don't use the term advisedly. There's a lot of reasons in there why the government says we should have it, and a lot of reasons why they say it's perfectly safe and we should have it. And there's only one useful document in there, which was the mixed combined plans, which actually showed us where it was. And I went on Parish Online earlier and produced a piece of a map, because that's the one that, if you scroll down, Councillor, shows, in theory, shows where it is, which is not very helpful. And I then found it from the OS coordinates given, and put it, did a bit on Parish Online, so we can see the relevance to where it is with Soak Road. It's up to the top of what the view you can see there now, very close to the large fishing lake, and it's more or less right in the centre of where we're looking now. They did ask us to do a pre-application visit, which I was due to do with Councillor Jones. I was unwell on that day, and our committee clerk went with Councillor Jones. So would either of you like to make any comments on the facts of the matter?
Yeah, initially it was quite hard to find, but then thankfully, having driven up and down Soak Road about half a dozen times, we saw a man standing outside and he realised that we were there for the appointment. So we had to then a long trek across the field, past pretty well nothing, to find exactly where it was going to be, which was just a patch surrounded by shrubs and a few trees, and relatively close to the pylons, which are approximately 45 metres tall. It wasn't that close to the fishing lake. You couldn't see the fishing lake from where we were. It wasn't really close to anything.
I think it's close to the. Well, last time I was down there was a hut there for the fishermen to make tea in that inn, but I thought it was fairly close to that, but perhaps not. You have anything to add, Joe?
I didn't see a hut.
No, no. It wasn't close to anything.
Oh, okay. My memory isn't as what it was then, obviously. There are, on that other document, there is a picture showing the relative heights of the
Is that the mixed combined plans?
yeah, it's further down that one. There's showing some of the trees and where it's going in. That's the current tree line, and that's where it's going compared with the trees. And there's another one further down which I think shows the pylon as well. Sure, yeah, there you go. So nearby a pylon, and it's about half the height of the pylon, if that.
Pylons have to be a minimum of 118 feet,
Yeah.
and this one was substantially taller. So I think the guy instructor thought it was approximately 50 metres, and I'm sure he's about right.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
Do they have to put in a planting plan? Because they'll be taking shrubbery out, and planning applications now have to have a biodiversity net gain.
Councillor Lanker-Smith.
I suspect because it's a utility that won't apply.
And the implication from the plan shown suggests that there's a suitable, nice suitable gap in amongst the trees where they can put it. So basically, I think this is another one where they're not really expecting us to comment on.
There's a photo of the gap if you want to look at it.
Sorry?
There's a photo of the gap.
Oh, right.
Joe, very kindly downloaded. It's not really much to look at. It's a few shrubs, a few small trees, and I think one small tree gets removed and a few shrubs get removed.
Sorry, I'm struggling to find the photo.
It was on a separate.
I sent it by email. Yeah.
Right. It might not be therefore be on the stuff which I downloaded. So apologies. Yes, you sent an email, a photograph, and I forgot to put it in. Yeah, Councillor Carson.
Because I've any views of 5 Junes, are there any material reasons for objection?
Well, I'm struggling to find any in terms of, as we've been told, it's quite a way from anybody. I mean, Councillor Jones did suggest that he would drive down Soak Road and deliver any notifications if he thought they were necessary.
I couldn't see any point in dropping off to anybody.
Yeah, but it is. It is.
Places for it.
Sorry?
There could be worse places for it.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not quite in the middle of nowhere, but it's. I don't think it's going to affect the fish. Councillor Jones.
I think there's actually about 1,600 developments of that type already in the UK. The government is determined to have quadruple that number, and I actually thought they had permitted development rights anyway that have been set up.
Yes, I mean that well assumes that they're going to have to take power down the track to it, but
And just to finalise that, I think they looked at 7 locations, 7 or 8 again. This was the one deemed furthest from anybody and the best one to use, and it was hard to see the logic. I couldn't see any planning reasons for objects anyway.
Councillor Brown.
I would still comment on this. There's a building in the gap, and whether it's a utility company or not, I still stand by what I said earlier on, the fact that it is taking out trees and shrubs.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carson.
It's a It's building in the gap right next to a 45 metre pylon. It's a new
It's-
point.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Propose an objection.
Okay, well, Councillor Carson has proposed an objection. Councillor Hammersmith?
Seconded.
Okay. Do you
No, I have no issue with it. It's just the fact I think we should comment on the fact that it's
lose? It's in the gap and is losing shrubs, if not trees. So, anyway, we have a proposal for no objection. So,
It's just one low quality tree has been removed. I think it's 2 shrubs. So I'm not sure that cares.
Councillor Brown.
it still doesn't get us anywhere. But as everyone else has to have a biodiversity net gain, don't see why utility companies should get away with doing something and there not being that in place.
We have a proposal. Would you like to add to your proposals?
Yeah, but I don't know what words to use because I actually don't disagree with Councillor Brown at all. That perhaps we should be requesting that the net biodiversity gain is achieved.
Yeah.
Just as a position from the council.
Yes, and the fact that it's in the gap. Sorry, Councillor Gaines.
Just a thought, I'm thinking about access and whether they might be planning to put hot standing down to access it, which, I think, what was the access road?
No, it's a rough road that's already got a hardcore surface on it. And that's all the access they need. It's through a lock gate.
Yeah.
Already 50 yards
It's
off the
just a
road.
thought that if they were going to put further hot standing down or whatever, we could ask them not to do that.
Yeah, it's a few years since I've been down there, but it's. I went for another planning application quite a few years back, and it is effectively a slightly more than a dirt track, which is mainly used by the fishermen at the fishing lake. Sorry.
So the
Yes,
amendment to the proposal would be along the lines of that we raise no objection, but would seek planting.
Additional planting.
In mitigation of the development.
Yeah.
So if that's clear.
Yeah. You okay with that, Jim? Okay, so we are saying no objection, but we would like to see some additional planting in mitigation of the development. Show of hands then, please. Okay, that's unanimous. Cheers. Not quite the no applications we thought we were going to get, but still, almost. Next item is decisions received, and we have a few of those. The application for a single-storey rear extension at 7 Ashling Gardens was permitted. We had no objection. The construction of a new single-storey 3-bedroom dwelling with attached 1-bedroom annex at 16 Park Road was refused, and we had a strong objection. The application at Linden Lee for phased building of 3 houses and a garage up Linden Lee Uplands Road was permitted. We had no objection with a request for conditions, mainly about the overlooking of the neighbours. Yeah.
I should have read the decision notice. Were our requested conditions granted?
I too forgot to do so I forgot to read it as well, so I can't answer the question. Slap wrist. Number 4 was Maysdean at School Lane, which was changed to some of the previously agreed changes to the bungalow. It was a 2-storey extension along the side instead of one more to the rear. And anyway, that one was granted, and we had no objection to that one. 12, the Spinney Parklands Business Park. The application to reduce and reshape trees to 14 metres above ground level. We deferred that to the tree officer, and the application has been withdrawn. And members may remember that when I visited the site to look, the photographs we had were completely different to where 12 the Spinney sits. And then there's another one which was at Too Little Mead for a reduction of a red oak tree, and which again we defer to the tree officer. And both of those applications have been withdrawn, I suspect at the advice of the tree officer. So I suspect we'll see them again, but in different versions. So that's the decisions received.
Chair,
Sorry.
I thought you might like to see why the application of Park Road was refused.
Uh-huh.
And it's because it would result in cramped form of development that would not respect the spatial character of the area in terms of mass and scale, and would also negatively impact the public rights of way, and would be contrary to policy CP16. Insufficient information with regard to bats and greater crested newt surveys have not been submitted, and therefore it's not possible to confirm that the proposal would not have an adverse impact. I think the first three were parts of our objection.
Yeah, we because it said in the application, I think, no, it said in one of the responses that we want to see a bat survey at least twice in the next 6 months, and they hadn't provided it. So, thank you for that. And members of the public, Councillor Langford Smith is now looking up the other decision to see whether they did do our requested.
We asked about the window being shaded, wasn't it?
Yeah. And the window shown at the first floor level on the east elevation to be built in phase 3, and the west elevation shall be glazed with obscure glass. So they did do what we asked and protected the overlooking of the neighbours.
Excellent.
Yeah, excellent. Yep. Okay, moving on then to new planning applications. We've had one since the agenda went out.
Two.
Another one now. We have only seen one so
The
far.
last minute.
Okay. Yes, I think one of them is going to be interesting, but I'll say no more. Number 9, Carpenter's Field transfer of open space to discuss and determine action. You have in your pack the copy of the letter from the Winchester Open Space Officer, basically saying that as far as Winchester concerned, the development of Carpenter's Field is complete, and they have provided the required landscaping, and that includes the northern open space, to the satisfaction of the Open Space Officer. And so as of 14th of February, Winchester will start their year of them holding or controlling the land, and that means that Persimmon have 12 months to ensure that everything carries on growing and normally. And we are to discuss and determine action. We have reminded Persimmon and Winchester that we are not happy with the northern open space, mainly the drainage problems and other problems as well. But we discussed that with them before this notification went out. So as it stands, this council has a resolution saying we will not accept the northern open space. We haven't said that about any of the other, i.e. the animal green and the small green and the car park and the play area. In fact, we're trying to take the car park and the play area earlier. So we have reminded them of that, and we'd reminded them, the Open Space Officer, of that verbally when we were walking around the northern open space in the rather wet weather. So, yes, Councillor Brown, you had your hand up.
Winchester are happy that they've done all the necessary groundworks. So the area around the Oak Tree by the Forest of Beer pub is still exactly the same as it was. It still has a massive dip. It's supposed to be a piece of open space.
Yes, that is one of the.
It was supposed to be in a level piece of ground, wasn't it?
No, it was supposed to have been. The slope was supposed to have been modified. They can't put too much in because they can't go up to the tree, because they'll effectively end up starting to bury the base of the tree. But yes, they were supposed to clear it, tidy it, and graduate the slope. Thank you. I was just about to come up with that word. Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Smith, you already had that as well, I think.
No, I was just going to say, we have reiterated to Winchester that we're not happy to take it over with the water pouring onto Tanners Lane. We were told that we were unreasonable because Prestonham have done everything that they were asked to do. And we pointed out that actually we have always, right from the very beginning, said about that area, and the fact we pointed out that it was very dangerous in the winter because it was literally like an ice rink. So it's up to council to decide whether or not we wish to take on that responsibility and cost to get it sorted in due course.
At the last meeting at the site, the representative of Persimmon said that as far as they were concerned, they had done their bit, and the fact that it was running onto the road, and it was because the drainage ditch, which belonged to Hampshire County Council, had not been maintained, and therefore the water was running not into the ditch but onto the road, and they agreed that they were to have another conversation with Hampshire about getting it sorted. I didn't argue the point at the time, but my thought on the matter is, well, it's riparian landowners that normally have to do the ditches, and sorry, but you own that piece of land which leads onto Tanners Lane, and the ditch the other side, which isn't flowing particularly well either, part of which that they have piped to make one of the entrances. Councillor Langford-Smith.
I believe that somebody quite senior from Persimmon is going to be joining full council meeting. I suggest that we actually raise this as an issue with him
Yes.
at that point.
Yes, he's well, I'm not sure if he's very senior. I think he's just Mr. Baginski's replacement.
No, he's his boss.
Oh, okay. Anyway, he has said he's coming in the June full council meeting. Councillor Carson.
The statement that a conversation was going to be had with Hampshire, regardless of who we consider owns those ditches, has that taken place?
No, well, we haven't had no feedback. That was going to happen. Persimmon said they would instigate that.
So that hasn't happened. As far as
Well, we haven't heard that it happened. So,
And sorry, my question is also, ultimately, if we continue to refuse to accept the transfer, what happens?
It's an interesting one because we pointed out at the time to the Winchester officer that we had a full council resolution that we would not accept the northern open space in the state it's in for more than one reason, and the implication of that is if we won't take it on from Winchester, Winchester will have to carry on making it because they've said they will accept it for the next 12 months. And the other point, of course, that we haven't yet had a resolution of is the licence over the newts. The environment needing someone to take on responsibility for the licence to make sure that the great crested newts are maintained and not not wiped out, I suppose, is one way of putting it. You know, so that their habitat is maintained. That was one of the other points that we had that we were not happy with. And again, Persimmon have come back and said, oh, they're asking the appropriate authorities whether they can effectively cancel the licence when they handed the land over. So there are. I mean, that's one of the other reasons why we said no, we won't do it and we won't take it on. And the third one, of course, was the fact that we could not sufficiently harden the site to avoid because we didn't own the land immediately inside one of the two gates that leads into it. Sorry, Councillor Brown.
The other issue is as well, we've got the potential that someone else owns that strip of land and may not be controlled by the new licence.
Yes. They don't own a strip on Tanner's Lane. It's around the edge, but not on the road.
No, but it's the whole field, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Councillor Carson.
Sorry, so many questions on catch up on this. Do we know what the solution is?
To which one, sorry?
To the water flowing down?
My possibly simplistic view is that if they were to dig out the drainage ditches along that road, the water would drain away down Tanner's Lane, as it was always intended to drain down in that direction. Councillor Kane? Oh.
Okay, well, and of course, further flooding in Ebony's Lane
Well,
and Road.
Well, possibly.
That's my concern.
But there's a lot of ditches down there which have not been maintained, which is part of the reason why some of the area down that way has water running down the roads, because the riparian owners have not maintained their ditches. Councillor Brown?
When we did the flood walkabout about 5 years ago, if not more, 8 years ago, it was said by the highways engineer that the road had actually taken the place of the ditches, and because the road had been widened from a country lane, widened to get cars down it, effectively they've taken the land that should have been the ditches, and that's why there aren't no ditches in a lot of places. So
but at the point in Tanner's Lane where the problem lies, there are ditches on both sides.
Yeah.
And the one on the southern side, where the new development is every time I've been there, full of water, and the one on the other side is barely exists. Sorry, not sure who was first there.
I did suggest that they could make both the ponds on both sides deeper, because that would then hold a more volume of water. They didn't seem very keen on that, because obviously it's quite a bit of engineering work. And yeah, digging the ditches would help. But as you say, it will shift the water elsewhere.
Councillor Brown?
Quite interestingly, being at Kidmore Field at the weekend, our ditch that runs along the northern boundary, so it borders the new open space, apart from the end by the road, it was empty. So it's not a problem that the water is coming through that tree line, it's actually running down that.
To be state the obvious, the parish council has maintained its ditch.
Yes.
Yeah, the ditch on the piece of land further down, which they are attempting to give us, has not had its ditches kept up. But the problem also is that when we went there, the water was flowing out of both of the ponds, but also down the main track. As Councillor Kane has said, it's been washed away, but there was so much water on the land, it was just pouring down the path as well. Councillor Jones.
If we've got the guy coming from Persimmon, can we, in advance of that, give him an indication of questions we're going to be asking? Otherwise, it's simply going to be
I think
deferred to the next meeting. I'll come back with some more.
I think we can ask Joe to make sure that they are aware, he is aware of the problems that we still believe are facing, and as you were there, you know, the comments made by the Persimmon guy about talking to Hampshire County Council. So we've no visibility of that. Anyway, so I think our action is therefore to get our committee clerk to once again write to another member of Persimmon, copied into the open space officer, saying we are not happy, and emphasising that full council has said we will not take on the public open space. And Winchester don't seem to have gotten onto that. Councillor Kane.
Would it be worth, given that they were talking about, Persimmon were talking to Hampshire about a dictate site, including a line about, it's the
Riparian ownership.
Riparian ownership, yes.
Riparian ownership, that they're required to maintain it. Well, it's
Yes, they, as I say, at the time they maintained it wasn't their problem, it was Hampshire's, and Hampshire had agreed it was Hampshire's, but I think our opinion is that as they own the land up to the road, it should be, in that sense, their ditch. So anyway, we will write to the new gentleman at Persimmon with all our points, and copy in the open space officer at Winchester. Yes, Councillor Brown.
Can we say that we won't accept the land in its present state at this time? Because if we say we're not going to accept it, it's sort of almost we're never going to accept it. But it's the issues of the problem, isn't it? If the issues are solved, then we
I can't remember the exact resolution at full council, but it was that we would not accept it as it stands. Councillor Kane.
Councillor Smith said that she has a video of the water running. That would be useful to attach, perhaps, so the team has a clearer idea of what the issues are.
But every little hopefully helps. So are we all, show of hands then for all, so they're happy to carry on with that procedure? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you. Item 10 is email from a resident of Fursley Corner regarding planning application 22-00979, full fir trees, Fursley Corner. Basically, we were copied in to correspondence sent to Winchester in the recent, I think it was the Sunday night when we had 47 millimetres of rain in 3 hours. The house next to the fir trees flooded, which is the first time it's happened, we gather. They objected to the new build at Fir Trees, as did we, on the grounds that it was right next to a stream, and they were looking to make more hard standing or hard landscaping, shall I say, on that site, and the neighbours objected on the grounds that it could cause flooding, and fairly recently it did, much to the distress of the neighbours. I put it on here to note because it was a correspondence copied to us from what they sent to Winchester, basically saying we told you this would happen, and obviously they are not very happy, and they have our sympathy, but there's nothing the parish can do. And in that letter he does acknowledge the fact that the parish objected. Councillor Kane. Councillor Carson.
I wonder whether the poor people will be considering they may have a litigation case against Winchester.
I'm not sure whether that's a feasible option, to be honest with you.
They could sympathise.
Well, yeah, all we can do is sympathise, and as I say, he did acknowledge that we had objected, and we just had ignored us and him. So we note, sadly. Number 11 is to receive a 5-councillor motion to rediscuss minute reference 131-24P1 planning application 23-02-693/TPO at 9 the Spring. Nine the Spring was granted permission to put in a root barrier between the house and an oak tree, which is in the ownership of the parish council, which was is a fair distance away. They were given planning permission to do so, but we refused permission to allow the root barrier to go in on our land. Sorry, Councillor Brown, I was...
We need a 5 councillor motion.
Yes, I know, I'm explaining the background in terms of we now have more information and which would basically require that we should reconsider our decision. In order to do so, we need a 5 councillor motion to rediscuss this point, several members by email did actually agree that they would sign a 5 councillor motion, and it is in front of me to be signed. Can I borrow a pen again, Joe, please? Thank you. So I shall sign it.
I also agree to sign.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we now have a 5 councillor motion. Proposal is that we rediscuss this, our response to this application, or to the application to allow the root barrier to be put in. So can I have a show of hands for those who wish to support the 5 councillor motion? And that's unanimous, thank you. So we'll then carry on. Councillor Langford Smith has pulled up the plan of the area. T4 is the oak. TG1, no, T4 isn't the oak. TG1 is the group of trees, including the oak tree, which is implicated in the number 9's porch being subsumed. Oh, that's not the right word. Subsidence under the porch, and signs that the roots are apparently now heading towards the rest of the house. The original application for this was to remove the tree, which we strongly objected to. That was refused. And the information we did have is that Winchester asked their tree investigation officer, who we also use for such things, to have a look at the situation. And his report said, no, we shouldn't take down the tree. They should put in a root barrier. Now, we actually never saw that report. And had we done so, our attitude to the planning application about the root barrier and the subsequent request to allow them to put the root barrier on our land may have been slightly different. Basically, the people wishing to install the root barrier are saying they cannot do what we suggested and put it in on the land belonging to number 9 because with all the utilities in that going into the house, they won't be able to put in an effective root barrier. It needs to be out into the green space between the trees and the houses. So that's the situation. And, well, yes, Councillor Brown, sorry.
I understand what they're saying. I think they're using, in fact, One, they clearly don't want to underpin the house because of cost implications. However, if that wasn't a piece of open space and was someone else's garden, would they be putting that root barrier in someone else's garden? Or are they just using that because it's a piece of parish council land that they think they can get away with it? And I personally feel that they should actually underpin the house. They shouldn't be using someone else's land.
Councillor Carson, wasn't it?
I don't know. I guess we can never know the answer to that question.
Well,
I feel that we're over a barrel, and it's the communication that I read that's available on the documentation is puts us in an impossible position, and also is exactly the reason why we are losing so many trees in Denmead, because even when we object, because Winchester themselves are too fearful of the cost of litigation, and I think that's exactly the position we're in with this.
Councillor Langford-Smith.
The fundamental issue here is the fact that the porch has very, very little foundations. And when I say little foundations, it's 50 centimetres. This is Denmead. We've just built a porch. We had to go down 2.4 metres. This porch is on 50 centimetres. That is what the issue is here. And similarly with the house. The house doesn't have proper foundations for the conditions in Denmead. So we're going to have this problem throughout the whole village.
Councillor Brown.
I didn't get this statement that Councillor Carson made about my comment, that we'll never know the situation. We are in this situation. We are in the situation that they wish to put it on parish council land.
With regards to someone else's garden.
Yeah.
But effectively it is someone else's land.
Yeah, I'm not sure the answer. Councillor Kane.
Just changing the angle slightly, I'm thinking that unless they are able to tell us where the utilities go, the utilities may well cross that same piece of land, not knowing. If they come through to the front, as it were, directly ahead of the porch, they'll have the same problem with the root barrier.
You have a very good point, and I'm not sure they actually know, because most of the rest of the houses in that area are behind that one. Yeah, Councillor Jones.
I mean, I agree with Councillor Carson, mate, to some extent they have it over a barrel, because the threat is quite clear. If, however, we are not prepared to assist, there's nowhere else where the barrier can be installed, we will have to instead consider the underpinning option. In such circumstances, we are likely then to seek to recover our associated increased repair costs from the parish council. So our issue is, at some stage, we're going to have to take legal advice if we wish to object to this, because the potential for underpinning and a substantial cost they seek to gain from us is something that we really would have to know about in advance before we say no.
Yeah, members will know that twice last year I went to Winchester Planning Committee to attempt to save trees that were in the same situation where they were application to take them down, and the law basically says if you block such things you are then liable. So which is why, despite the fact on 2 occasions all the Winchester councillors effectively said they didn't want to lose the tree, and when the legal officer says, well, if you turn this application down, Winchester will be responsible for the underpinning of this house for evermore, are you willing to put that burden on the council? And they all unanimously voted to lose the tree. And then this is a similar situation, which we weren't aware of when we actually made the decision we did, which we've just agreed to rediscuss. Councillor Brown.
I think we should go with Councillor Kane's thing that there is no proof that the utilities come out the front of that building, and if they do, the root barrier is impossible to put in where it is.
Councillor Langford-Smith?
I think we could certainly ask for a map of where the utilities are, because that would then provide us with the necessary information as to where the root barrier can go and how close to the house it can go, and not incursion on DPC land as least as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can concur with that, because if it needs to go, the closer the barrier needs to go to the tree, the more effect it's going to have on the tree
Absolutely.
and the other trees there. So, yeah, Councillor Brown?
Does the root barrier have any effect on top of the ground, or is it only it will be placed under the ground?
My understanding is it's a bit like a more robust weed barrier that you might put in your garden to stop the weeds coming up, but it's in vertically and stops tree roots from penetrating. But what it's made of, I don't really know.
So do we also know that it won't have any effect on any water courses that are in that ground, and then won't potentially then cause either heave or flooding issues? I know it's something they put in all the time, and I think it's questions that we should ask.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue. As far as I know, it stops tree roots but not water. But again, we don't really know. So I think we have a proposal that we go back and say we want more information, because they never told us exactly where they want to put the root barrier.
No, first and last.
And we asked that before. So we want to know exactly where the root barrier goes, and we also want to know where the utilities would go, and what effect the root barrier will have on our land. Councillor Carson?
No, that's fine. I think if we go with very specific points rather than sort of just general rumbling and grumblings, then we've got the basis of the...
Yeah, I mean,
Next
it's going to need to come back to us
Yeah.
again. But yes, as the discussion has brought out, we asked when we discussed the planning application where the barrier was going to go, and because all they showed us was the plan that Councillor Langford-Smith had up on the screen, and there's the tree, there's the house. Somewhere in there is going to be a root barrier. Yes, Councillor Brown.
I think we should also point out the fact, if we know that the footings for that building are insufficient, that we should point that out.
Well, yes, we can do, but in this case we're asking them for more information on both the exactly where they want to put the root barrier, what effect it would have on our land and any water flow through it, and also where the utilities run, that they are concerned the root barrier can't go around. We got all that one? Yeah. Thank you, Joe. So if we have a show of hands then, we take that action and await the outcome. That's unanimous. Yes, and this is about the third time, at least in recent times, where we've had a planning application for trees where Winchester have not given us all the information. And so we have made a decision without the full information. Okay, item 12 is the confidential report to pass a resolution in accordance with the Public Bodies Efficient Meetings Act 1960 to exclude public and press for discussions relating to the following, and we